Next morning we were happy with the presents round the tree. We were so excited that it took a while to see that the glass was empty and on the plate one crumb, and a note to us from Santa saying thank you, yum yum yum. And how many cookies can Santa Claus eat? Can Santa Claus eat? Can Santa Claus eat? How many cookies can Santa Claus eat? How hungry will he be? We better pile the plates all high with cookies nearly to the sky to feed Saint Nick so he can fly to kids like you and me. To feed Saint Nick so he can fly to kids like you and me. I know why there's Christmas. Would you like to know? Something wonderful happened here many years ago. In the town of Bethlehem on one frosty morn, in a manger where he lay, Jesus Christ was born. Shepherds watching flocks by night saw a heavenly light.
Good morning. Welcome to Boxing Day, church. Maybe that's where everybody is. They're out shopping on Boxing Day. Boxing Day, British, the UK? Boxing Day, yeah. My name is Neenan Hentz. I'm your worship associate this morning. First thing I would like is everybody check your phones, make sure they're on silent or off. Welcome to those of you who are here for the first time with us at Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. We extend a special welcome to those of you watching on YouTube. We also say welcome to if this is your very first time. Our minister is the Reverend Walter LaFleur. However, this morning's service is being led by Anna Toulouse. The focus of this morning's service is Gifts of Dark, Gifts of Light.
Thank you, everyone, for actually being here today. It's a tall order, the day after Christmas. I'm going to take a minute just to fully arrive where we are. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, feel free to do so. But I just want you to think about where you are physically in space, in the world, and find yourself in this place. And breathe into that. And think about where you are in community. Who's sitting with you? Who are the people who are part of your community, who are present and who are distant? And locate yourself here. And I want you to think about where you are in time. Are your thoughts drifting to the events of the past few days or years past? Are you thinking ahead to what you need to do this afternoon? And try to bring yourself into time here, now. Thank you for arriving. As we do at the beginning of every service, we will ring 7 times for the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. I invite everyone to say silently, in your minds and your hearts, the words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. Our opening words this morning are a winter solstice prayer by Deborah, Britt, Blake. Winter comes on silent feet, drawing darkness in. The colder, longer days increase with each revolving spin. I will not fight the shorter hours, ignoring nature's calls. Instead, I'll slow my hectic pace and rest as winter falls. The night invites me to my sleep. The dawn is slow to come. I slow my pace and calm my pulse and march to nature's drum. Welcome. As we light our chalice this morning, we have a lot of experiences we carry with us around the holidays, whichever holidays you celebrate. And we can hold the joy, we can hold the nostalgia and the grief. There's room for it all here.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessie, and I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at UUCR. So just a couple weeks ago, I had the most precious memory pop up into my head. It was while we were decorating the church. We were hanging the greens. And I remembered after every time that we decorated the tree at my grandparents' house, and of course they got the tree, but then waited to decorate it until all the grandkids could be there so we could all help and we could all fight over who got to put which ornament where. And after we were done decorating, it went so fast because there were like 20 of us. We would all sit by the fire with the tree just beside us. We would sit on the floor and listen to my grandfather tell stories. My grandfather can tell a story. Now, sometimes y'all say, Jesse, I love the stories you tell. I got them all from him. I'll be honest. He used to tell us the most marvelous stories, and we would sit there with our cocoa warming our insides and his stories warming our hearts. And now that he's much older, he would probably regret that I said that, we get to tell him stories. We get to go visit, and we get to say, Ampa. We call him Ampa because my sister couldn't say Gra. It stinks that her name was Gretchen. So we would say, Ampa, this is what's happening in my life. I got to do a play. Let me tell you about that play. And one of the stories he always told us was the story of the Warm Fuzzies. And now I get to retell that story. And he helped me rewrite that story. Now the Warm Fuzzies look something like this. This is a warm fuzzy. It's soft. Oh, it feels so great. And if I hold it in my hand, it warms up and I can put it in my pocket, keep my hands warm. Sometimes you can put them in your pockets and keep yourself a little soft when you bump into things. Warm Fuzzies started on a little island. And the people on this island had bags full of warm fuzzies. And when they saw you, they would say, hello, it's so great to see you. I love to see you this morning, Nina. Your smile's just brightening my day. And they would give somebody a warm fuzzy. And then that person would take that warm fuzzy and they'd put it in their bag. And then they would give it to somebody else. It's so great to see you, Jean. I haven't heard you sing in a while, and I heard you sing on Christmas Eve. Here's a warm fuzzy. Thank you so much. And Jean would take that warm fuzzy and put it in her bag. But one day, someone wasn't feeling like giving away warm fuzzies. They didn't even have a little ribbon. They didn't have anything they could give away. They had to keep their warm fuzzies to themselves. They'd had a really hard year. It was a rough, rough time for them. They saw a lot of loss. They saw a lot of things that hurt their heart, and they needed to keep those warm fuzzies and make the world a little softer. Now they had two options. They could give away a cold prickly, which is the opposite of a warm fuzzy. And a cold prickly doesn't make anybody feel good. And once it gets in your bag, it starts to melt into your warm fuzzies, and it starts to make them a little bit damp, and they're not warm at all. And they start to harden up, and they get a little prickly. And the next thing you know, all you have to give out is a cold prickly. Or you can say, Neenan, it's very good to see you today. Do you have a warm fuzzy that I can borrow? You don't have to give away all your warm fuzzies. You can ask for them. And if Neenan has one, she can give one to me. Or she can say, you know what? I'm out too, friend. Let's go find some warm fuzzies. And we can go find warm fuzzies together. But warm fuzzies also grow in the wild. Warm fuzzies can come from strangers. We don't have to know each other's names to give each other a warm fuzzy. I might have a basket full of warm fuzzies and these fun, soft little ribbons. I might have more warm fuzzies than I know what to do with. So I can give all of those away, and Nina can refill her bag, and the person who has a rough year can refill their bag. We don't have to have cold pricklies. Sometimes we feel like our bag is full of cold pricklies, and sometimes our bag is full of warm fuzzies. But the great thing about introducing a warm fuzzy to a bag full of cold pricklies is it can work its magic too. So this morning, I have a warm fuzzy for everybody in this room. I have beautiful ribbons for everybody in this room. And after the service, out in the garden, I will have these warm fuzzies for you. You can take it and keep it. We also have a rope that you can attach it to so we can hang it up. So if you have a warm fuzzy to spare, or if you want to give your warm fuzzy away, you can put it on that garland so that someone can take it for later if they need it. We've got ribbons, we've got warm fuzzies, and we've got love. So thank you so much for being here this morning, and I will see you after the service.
I don't know about you, but I needed warm fuzzies this morning. Thanks, Jesse. Our readings this morning are from a collection of different pieces from Active Hope by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone. People often despair about the problems of human selfishness. If, as some believe, we are genetically programmed to put our comfort and our convenience before the interests of others or our world, then the outlook is pretty dismal. But what if we could transform the expression of selfishness by widening and deepening the self for whom we act? There are many different ways of viewing the self. The concept of a separate self, a discrete entity separate from other people in the world, is only one way. When we identify with something larger than ourselves, whether that be our family, a circle of friends, a team, or a community, that becomes a part of who we are. There's so much more to us than just a separate self. Our connected self is based on recognizing that we are part of many larger circles. The distinction often made between selfishness and altruism is therefore misleading. It is based on a split between self and other, presenting us with a choice between helping ourselves, selfishness, and helping others, altruism. When we consider the connected self, we recognize this choice as nonsense. It is from our connected selves that much of what people value most in life emerges, including love, friendship, loyalty, trust, relationship, belonging, purpose, gratitude, spirituality, mutual aid, and meaning. The philosopher Immanuel Kant made a distinction between moral acts and beautiful acts. We tend to perform moral acts out of a sense of duty or obligation. In contrast, we perform beautiful acts when what we do is morally right because it is attractive to us. The action motivated more by desire than duty. When our connected sense of self is well developed, we are often more drawn to beautiful acts. When we lose our sense of self-connectedness, sense of felt connectedness, we miss out on this sort of beauty.
It's amazing to me that when we are able to receive graciously, which I hope many of us in this room have been able to do over the past few weeks, we also become better at giving graciously and generously. Our ushers are now going to pass baskets around, and I invite you to give of what you can, and thank you. I ask your indulgence in advance. I'm getting over a case of laryngitis, so if I start coughing, bear with me. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna. I am a seminary student looking to become a minister. And I also have 3 young children, which might play slightly into what we're talking about today. So this past Wednesday afternoon, I hit my holiday threshold. I was 2 weeks into my winter break, which so far had consisted of multiple kids quarantining and plans changing and to-do lists growing ever longer, all the things to do and not getting done, and kids asking repeatedly why I hadn't wrapped any presents yet or made any cookies, and you get the idea. Meanwhile, I read the paper, I look online, I look outside, and I see there's so much wrong in the world. And friends are hurting, and some of us are hurting too. We're feeling overwhelmed. And by Wednesday, I was feeling pretty maxed out. I made 2 batches of cookies, and I'd wrapped a couple presents, and I'd also refereed countless sibling squabbles and restrung the lights on the top half of the Christmas tree, which had burnt out within one day, and then also swept up all the broken ornaments, which had broken in said process. So I was not doing great, and all of the things I had done felt insignificant in light of everything else. And my pulse was high, and my jaw was tight, and I was just done. I was done. The monologue in my head was neither generous nor festive. It was a pity party. And I had become totally caught up in what Kant described as, quote, moral acts done out of a sense of duty and obligation. At least that's how I self-righteously was describing them in my own head. All the things I should be doing, and definitely should be doing better than I was. And of course, the too few things that I was actually doing, but not getting sufficient credit for. So in that moment, I had no grace for myself or anyone else. It was me against the world, or me against the holidays. I'd lost my sense in that moment of my connected self. I'd forgotten why I even wanted to do any of it. Why does this seem to happen every year? For me, I think I always feel pulled in 2 directions. See, I celebrate Solstice for my own spiritual practice. And I celebrate Christmas for my kiddos and for community. I love that aspect of it. The dynamic between these 2 observations has also been really challenging for me. So let's start with solstice, winter solstice, also called Yule. I celebrate by hiking before dawn. I shuffle through the leaves in the blue and black dark so I can greet the sunrise as the wheel of the year turns us back toward longer days, though the cold of winter is really just beginning. It's quiet and contemplative, and the focus is not just on that sunrise, on the light, but especially on the gifts of the darkness. In the dark, our senses are heightened. We listen more deeply. In the winter woods, we can hear more clearly, the leaves having fallen and removed that dampening insulation. The shush of those fallen leaves can seem suddenly deafening, both the womb and the tomb. Darkness is the source, the place of transformation and dreaming, the place of incubation, of rest, of gathering in. Dark is mystery, infinite potential. Dark is to be honored. And if dark is the source, the place of dreaming, then light is emergence, manifestation, the seed of promise waiting in the earth, the baby that is born, each one a miracle. The sun that rises, the work of our hands. All these things are dreaming brought into life and action. At the summer solstice, our days are long, and the sun is hot, and we are busy and sunburnt and productive and bountiful, and even then we honor that much-needed cooling rest that comes at night and its promise of winter's quiet, however distant. At the winter solstice, I lean into the gifts of the dark to slow my pace and my breath, even as my eyes seek the growing light and my body leans yearning toward warmth. This is not a dualist battle between light and dark. It is a complementary flow, a cycle, a spiral dance wherein we hold space for and honor both. The alignment with the cycle of the seasons, of the moons, and of each day, this alignment reinforces for me my sense of connected self. I am not apart from nature. I am a part of nature. These rhythms belong to me, and I belong to them. They echo through me. But that's not where I was on Wednesday afternoon. After some considerable venting, and after I laughed at the hot mess that was me, it was not pretty, I started to look in earnest at the question of how I might reconcile this conflict between the cool quiet of my solstice practice and the hectic dash that is Christmas with kiddos. And once more, I had to laugh at myself because I realized that the conflict was nonsense. It was only in my mind. Solstice honors both the dark and the promised seed of light growing within. Christmas has become a bit extra, but if we can strip away the capitalist influence and mayhem, we can still see that it is simply more light-focused. It is more focused on the baby than on the womb. The conflict and my resentment arises only when I lose my sense of connected self. When I am focusing on all I should be doing and whether it's even being appreciated and it's never enough and I'm tired and lonely and frustrated and worried, and that is disconnection. Me against distinct, individual, isolated. Also not true. When I broaden my sense of self to include my family, my community, my world, the earth, any act of service to any of these is also a gift to myself. It's also a gift to myself. I reconnect with Kant's beautiful acts of generosity. Similarly, anytime I recognize that my pace is growing frantic and my eyes are dazzled by the glare of too many lights, I can slow down and step into that cool dark to care for myself. And that act of self-care is likewise a beautiful act of care to the world. One of my favorite Christmas carols is what Carrie played during the offering. Lo, how a rose there blooming from tender stem hath sprung, of Jesse's lineage coming, as those of old have sung. It came a flower bright amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night. Now this carol, those words are so beautiful. It's loosely based on a set of passages from the book of Isaiah in the Tanakh. And the original audience would have read in these passages a promise of the ultimate return of the Jewish people to their homeland after exile. And of course, the Christian lens interprets these passages as prophetic of the coming of Jesus. The carol imagery draws heavily on the context of a European climate, very different from the Middle East, and also pre-existing pagan traditions. And so we get this beautiful composite image of a rose blooming bright, not against the dark, but through it, like a star in the night sky, like a newborn babe cradled in the dark when half spent was the night, halfway through the dark half of the year, a promise to carry us through the winter to come. The rhythm of the song itself is rocking, lulling, inviting sleep and dreams. Can you hear that? In this carol, we can sense that connected self. We honor the gifts of the dark and the promise of light. We expand our sense of self to include our human community and all beings of the earth and Earth herself. And this allows us to birth even greater gifts, to coax even more daring dreams to bloom impossibly through cold and dark. There is much hurt, which can seem insurmountable and paralyzing. Pollution, ecological devastation, injustice, poverty, suffering. But when we expand our sense of self, we now have access to so much more self from which to draw strength and wisdom. We have so much more self with which to address these issues. The line between self and other blurs and then falls away. When I take action for a loved one, for my community, for the earth, there is no sacrifice there. I am also caring for myself. These are beautiful acts. I want to do them. And when I take steps to care for this body and mind and soul, it is not selfish. Because in so doing, I am caring for the world, allowing myself to show up more fully to do this work. In this time of year, when nights are long and cold creeps and the ground crunches underfoot with the morning frost, I think light can be all the more dazzling. Even on these, the shortest of days, we can find ourselves sunburnt if we are not careful. The reconciliation that I've found when being pulled in two directions is in embracing the rhythm of the world in which we live, leaning into the interconnected web of existence of which we all are a part, and dancing upon that web, knowing the rhythm travels through every strand. If you are comfortable so doing, I invite you to get yourselves comfy and close your eyes. And it's fine to leave your eyes open if you're not comfortable with that. Because when the light does dazzle us, and it will, and it does, we can choose to close our eyes for a moment and breathe and remember. That light will have its time. For now, we can keep our rhythm here in the steady heartbeat thrum running through strands of silk that bind all the world as one becoming self. And I have a blessing to share with you. This is the Blessing for the Longest Night by Jan Richardson. All throughout these months, as the shadows have lengthened, this blessing has been gathering itself, making ready, preparing for this night. It has practiced walking in the dark, traveling with its eyes closed, feeling its way by memory, by touch, by the pull of the moon, even as it wanes. So believe me when I tell you this blessing will reach you, even if you have not light enough to read it. It will find you even though you cannot see it coming. You will know the moment of its arriving by the release of breath you have held so long, a loosening of the clenching in your hands, of the clutch around your heart. This blessing does not mean to take the night away, but it knows its hidden roads, knows the resting spots along the path, knows what it means to travel in the company of a friend. So when this blessing comes, take its hand, get up, set out on the road you cannot see. This is the night when you can trust that any direction you go, you will be walking toward the dawn. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe.
Good morning. I'm Sally Garber, representing the Caring Committee this morning. As you all know, one of the things that we do is record the current concerns of the congregation as lifelines. If you'd like to tell us about a concern or a milestone that you'd like to have us share, please call or email the church office by noon on Friday, or you can call me or any member of the Caring Committee. You can also write it in the Lifelines book at the altar, either before or after the service. I also want to remind you that during the week, the Lifelines book has relocated back to the pedestal by the name tag board, so you can always add something there if you'd like to then. Let us enter into a time of reverence together. into this space of love and hope, I bring a request. And the request is from Georgianne Vicellio. She asks for you all to please send positive thoughts to her and her daughter. She has left this morning to drive to Florida, and she's really kind of worried because she's got COVID to worry about. She's got the long drive to worry about. And also, Anna's friend canceled at the last minute because her grandfather is in failing health. And so now Anna is disappointed that she doesn't have her friend with you. So please send Georgianne some positive thoughts. She really needs them right now. Anna and I will now light candles for all those who are present and not present. As we do this, let us take this time to be together in meditation, prayer, or reflection for all those people and events in our lives that move us. May our prayers be heard and our hearts be restored.
Spirit of life, spirit of change, be with all those present and distant who have joys and sorrows that may seem too small to share out loud in this space, or too great to share. Give us space and trust to hold all of this. Give us space to heal. Give us space for connection. Blessed be. Amen and Ashe.
And good morning. We have a few announcements today, but I would like to preface with, we would really like to request that everyone refer to the newsletter for their list of announcements rather than the volumes of announcements that we generally read. So what we're getting now, you're welcome. The Worship Associates met and said, this has got to stop. So we are going to give you sort of a truncated version from now on of the announcements, and then please request that you refer to the newsletter. If you are not getting the newsletter, please contact Samantha at admin.uuroanoke.org, right? Yeah. Yeah. And she will get you hooked up with that. So the first thing is that beginning tomorrow, the 27th through the 3rd of January, the church is closed. I would add to that we do have a service next Sunday, so it will be open for that. On the 9th of January, we have our Poetry Foundation fundraiser here, and that will be from 2 to 5. So everyone please come. We have several local poets, and then there will be an open mic afterwards. Family Promise is covered for January. I'm sure you saw that, and thank you. I'm ever so grateful for that. Men's group meets from 12 to 1 every Tuesday. If you'd like more information on that, contact Ron Salzbach. And the women's group meets from 12:30 to 2:30 on the first and third Thursdays of every month. Contact you, Erica? Me, you, one of us will get you hooked up with that. And finally, on the 25th of January, we have our next edition of Tuesday Night Tales, with the topic being in the news. And if you would like more information about that, contact Jesse.
That's beautiful, Carrie. Our benediction this morning is from one of my favorite poets, Wendell Berry. The seed is in the ground. Now may we rest in hope while darkness does its work. Go forth into your weeks. Get into those warm fuzzies out in the garden. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas, a happy solstice, whatever celebrations you are or aren't having, I hope they are filled with warmth. Blessed be. Namaste.